Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
I'm returning Clint.
YT Productions.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy, you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay, tune into the HBCU.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab, and as you can see, we're ready for our golf game right here. Who wants to be the fourth member of the golf team as we gonna go out and stroke it, for all the HBCU golf classics that are out there in terms of raising money for their athletic program or for their institution? Hey, we got one of the better golfers out there between Charles and Mike Washington. I'll make sure I serve everybody a good cold beverage. But I'll let these two men put it in the strokes and make sure they get it going. You know, they the business people out there, so they know what they're doing. We just need the fourth one. Whoever has the best stroke, come on in, and we'll put you on the team. Now, if you're not too good with the golf club, because Charles gonna check you. He gonna ask you swing. You ain't gonna be able to get on the team with Charles, because Charles gonna be like, sorry, buddy. We'll give you black hat. You get the black hat. You know, you can coach us through some of it. With that being said, I'm excited because we got Mike back in the fold. Looking good, Mike. Looking good, bro.
Oh, I appreciate it, Doc. I appreciate it, CB. Glad to be back in the lab.
Good to have you back in the fold, brother.
And we got Charles Bishop in the house. How you doing, Charles?
I'm doing well, Doc. Doing well. You know, coming back from Jackson, Mississippi, covering Coach Prime's camp this past weekend. And I tell you what, these hats, these are going to be hot sellers. All
right. Thank you. Let us know. Put it in the chat. Let me know if the hats are working for you. If you need your order, put them up in there. I know some of y'all, we got them out there. We're getting ready. We got the white ones, black ones. We're going to look at that, getting some other colors as well. You see Mike on with the authentic polo shirt. They're going to be coming as well. We'll have plain ones for everybody so they can get them in their school color or their sorority, fraternity color that they want, or just your plain favorite color. We understand it. Some of y'all do it differently, so no problem with that. But let's get into it. Appreciate you, Charles, showing that up there. Let them know. Welcome to episode 149 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-hosts, Mike Watts and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KSUH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, who's also the birthday boy. Cheer it up. Mike, you want to give it to him? Up to it?
Up to it, down to it. Forget
That's right. Don't give him the rest. Don't give him the rest, man. Get in trouble. This is radio. This is home radio.
I'll stop it right there.
I know you can give it to them all. Everybody give their shout outs to them. But we're in our beautiful home, Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. And all of us are back in the studio. So we're actually on our home front in Houston, Texas. With that, let me start with you, Charles. You want to shout out to Ralph?
Yeah, I definitely want to say shout out to the legend, Ralph Cooper, man. Thank you for all that you've done. You have paved the way for all of us in terms of talking about HBCU athletics. So definitely want to say happy birthday.
Mike, you want to chime in?
Yeah, man. What can you say to the historian, sports rap, radio producer, par extraordinaire,
icon,
historian, Houston icon. I remember seeing him when I was little on a show called Houston Sports Rap on Channel 2, KPRC. It'd be Ralph Cooper and a couple of others. So he's been an icon. He can tell you about several stars. Hey, hats off to you, brother. When I see you, you know we're going to do the real up to it, down to it.
There it is. I like that. Great place to end it. We'll leave it right there. Shout out to the listeners. Let's go to those lab listeners out there. Man, I love the lab listeners. They give it to us hot and heavy as they're ready for the election. Chuck Hunt, Wendy Jenkins Bishop, Lawrence D. White, Karen Griffin, representing that Southern Cal. It never rains in Southern California. It's raining over here in Houston, though, folks. It stormed all last night, but we're all right. Chuck Hunt says Deion Sanders had the star-studded football camp. We'll get a little insight because our very own Charles Bishop, as we said earlier, coming in here, he was right, present, and on at campus, getting it done, getting all the insight, man. So he'll give us a little insight to that. We got Belinda Johnson representing Alcorn Knight, present, no doubt, representing Houston as well. Black College Football Hall of Fame ceremonies. Yeah, we'll get in a little bit about that. Be excited about some of those folks getting in the way that they were able to get it done. That was big as well. Lawrence D. White checking in, PVA and Panthers SWAC Cup champions. I see you representing. I see you. Make sure they know. Kay Johnson, good evening. Time for the lecture. Hashtag 149. Let's go. I like that. Jerome G. Sutton representing FAMU in that band over there, that famous band. You know, he likes to talk about the March of 100. K. Johnson, Mike is back on the mic. Yeah, you got to watch it because he might try to drop it for us. You know, he get excited. AD said, he's listening on the road. I love it. That's Brian and AD of the Sports Rap right here, brought to you by BCSN. Download the app. My BCSN, my JDN. Get it. Trudy Jackson. Pamela, Richard Henderson, I see. Karen Griffin talking about that purple. Yeah, we got a little purple in there. You know how it goes. We'll see if we can get you some purple. We'll see whether we get some purple love in there. Linda says happy birthday to Mr. Cooper. G Boom Holly, what's up, guys? You know, that's our main man in terms of our tailgate crew. Ricky Burton, he said he's
all
ready.
Tailgating arrangements.
No doubt about it. We got to make sure we get it right. Reginald Johnson is representing the I Love in the house. LaShawn Harris. The White Moore. What's up, Frank? Jalen Riley. Keep them coming. So hit us up throughout the show. We'll see if we can give you some love throughout there. But with that, it's time to get into it because today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting data analytics. So today's episode, let's start off here because this was big news. We won't take a deep dive because we had a chance maybe to follow up on the second half of the show, and really we'll get into this Thursday because we have an interview lined up where we're going to go off the grid a little bit or on the grid, depending on where you see it. But we're going to go way up the food chain to the president level with NAIA president, if you would, Jim Carr, to talk about how they jumped ahead of this in a lot of ways until the LMI in terms of name, images, and likeness, LMI. So we'll see how that works. So the Supreme Court dropped it. NCAA versus Alston, where former college players disputed with the NCAA about compensation. They didn't go totally into the compensation part of it, but they certainly told them in a lot of ways what they were doing in terms of limiting resources in terms of what students can have and college athletes, specifically in terms of books, computers, and things of that nature, that they wouldn't be able to do that. So I thought that was fascinating in so many ways. So, gentlemen, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on what does this mean moving forward. Before I do that, let me drop a couple of points so people are just with us in case they haven't got in the detail of the news. I know they've heard it, obviously. The Supreme Court of the United States unanimously, that's a big statement in itself, especially when you have this type of split court, affirmed a ruling that provides for an incremental increase in how college athletes can be compensated and also opens the door for future legal challenges that could deal a much more significant blow to the NCAA's current business model, which they like to refer to as amateur athletics. You know how I think about it. I think that is off the radar in a lot of ways, and you see how it's becoming unhinged. Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote the court opinion, which upheld a district court judge decision that the NCAA was violating antitrust law by placing limits on the educational related benefits that schools can provide to athletes. So that's important. They didn't necessarily get into a decision about compensation, but they said that they could not educator related benefits. So the quickest thing I can tell you about that, that'd be like a laptop. Now people can provide laptops. They can't say that we can't afford to get you laptops. You can get a laptop and it's not going to be docked by the NCAA. It's unpermissible. Examples of this benefits, improving things like laptops, paid costs, graduating internships, and funding like tutoring and study abroad, which, you know, somebody that really has pushed the study abroad program at Texas Southern University, specifically for the Sport Managed Sports Studies program. I'm excited about that. And so just kind of wanted to get your thoughts. Let me start with you, Charles. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, the first thing that jumped out at me is, you know, anything about sports leagues, they get away from anything that says antitrust. So when you start using that terminology, and I think Justice Kavanaugh and Justice Gorsuch, I was picking up on what they were saying, and I think the verbiage, to the extent the NCAA means to propose a sort of judicially ordained immunity from the terms of the Sherman Act for its restraints of trade, that we should overlook its restrictions because they happen to fall at the intersection of higher education, sports, and money.
we cannot agree. Jumped out at me. Justice Kavanaugh, he was the real mic drop to me. The NCAA is not above the law. The NCAA couches its argument for not paying student athletes and innocuous labels, but the labels cannot disguise the reality that the NCAA's business model would be flatly illegal in almost any other industry in America. I mean, when I read that, I was like, whoa. Now you talk about mic drop, and I don't think I was expecting, when we talk about, split court, I don't think I was expecting this sort of pushback against the NCAA the way that this Supreme Court sort of dropped the mic the other day. So that was huge in terms of, their opinion in regards to how the NCAA runs its business model.
No doubt about it. What'd you say? Mic drop?
Oh, huge mic drop. Huge mic drop. Justice Kavanaugh always said, yeah, they're employees, not student athletes.
He always said that. Let me read the end of his half of his statement in terms of what he said before he got the NCAA is not above the law. Parting quote, he says, but those, he starts talking about these traditions, because you always hear the NCAA talking about these traditions. So he said, to be sure, the NCAA and its members, colleagues maintain an important tradition that have become part of the fabric of America. Game days in Tuscaloosa and South Bend, the packed gyms and stores in Durham, the women's and men's lacrosse championships, the Memorial Day weekend track and field meets in Eugene, the spring softball and baseball World Series in Oklahoma City and Omaha. The list goes on. But those traditions alone cannot justify the NCAA's decision to build a massive money-raising enterprise on the backs of student athletes who are not fairly compensated. Nowhere else in America can business get away with agreeing not to pay their workers a fair market rate on the theory that their product is defined by not paying their workers a fair market rate. And under ordinary principles of the antitrust law, it is not evident why college sports should be any different. The NCAA is not above the law. First, I'm gonna go with you, Mike. What are your general thoughts on what we've discussed thus far?
Well, there's additional add-ons to that. Kavanaugh also wrote, price-fixing labor is price-fixing labor. He said, and price-fixing labor is ordinarily a textbook antitrust problem because it extinguishes free market in which individuals can otherwise obtain fair compensation for their work. That quote has been quoted in a number of sources, most recently, the Washington Post. They even went further. Kavanaugh, right? The NCAA couches its arguments for not paying athletes in innocuous labels. So these labels disguise the reality that the NCAA business model would be flatly illegal in most other countries, meaning some form of, I don't know, maybe corporate slavery, and I'm using slang, where you're getting wages and you're not allowing athletes to earn off their name, image, and likeness in a free market system. So he made it crystal clear. So I will see CB's mic drop and add a "oh wow" to it.
So you doing the recorder? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. You're right with that in a lot of ways, but this is a quick one where I want to ask you to get into it. Obviously, a lot of this focus, as you said, with the Tuscaloosa, South Bend, these are on the Power 5 institutions where we've heard all the money is being made, and obviously they're pocketed it. And we've said on different shows on here myriads of times that a large percentage of that money stays within these Power 5 and floods down to the cost they're able to pay these coaches, facility wars that goes on. But when you get outside of that, for the most part, what are your thoughts in terms of how this may affect HBCUs? So I'm gonna put a little pin on that as we have our first guest coming in. Let's go to a commercial and see if we can pick up with our guest. And then on the second half of the show, we'll get in some more details and see if we can get your thoughts on it. This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Wash and Charles Bishop. We'll go into this break and we'll be right back after this break.
I'm attorney Clinton Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt.
Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
They play, how they play, boy, you gon' learn today. How you say they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay, tune into the.
So we have, this is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and as I was saying, we have Mr. Derek Weber, Marketing LLC, and he is the founder, if you would, of the Cracker Barrel National Battle of the Bands, and this will be the 2021 version. And so we're bringing you back to talk a little bit about this, more of what's going on. So I know that you're doing a media event tomorrow. Before you get into particulars about the media day, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's great to be back on. Love fellowshipping with the team, and we're doing good. We're in Houston, and we're excited to be back in our second home. And we're just humbled and excited about this year coming up and all the great stuff that we got going.
No doubt about it. I know you're busy, so we won't keep you long, but we thought it was important for all our fans out there, HBCUs, not only fans of sports, but fans of the bands, because they're fans of the HBCU sports culture. And so you're bringing part of that culture to us with the HBCU fans. So I know tomorrow's the media event.
Yes.
Where you're going to name some of the teams. So you might, some of the bands, I should say. So you might not be able to get in that, because I know there's a little star-studded support for that. But when is the actual event?
The event's coming up August the 29th. But that whole weekend is going to be filled with a lot of great activities and events that we got going on. We have esports masterclass that we're doing tied into the local school system here in Houston. We have a step show that night with Greek organizations that we're giving away $3,000 in scholarship funding to them. We have emerging experience highlighting entrepreneurs tied into the University of Houston, which is the #1 entrepreneur school in the country. So we're highlighting that minority entrepreneurs. We have the college and health fair, as well as another addition to esports gaming tournament that we're doing. And then we have the actual event with the Battle of the Bands. We have 8 bands coming from 8 different states throughout the country. And I can tease it a little bit, from Virginia to North Carolina to Florida to Mississippi to Louisiana to Oklahoma so we got a great lineup of.
Did you say Texas? I'm sorry, I may have misheard. Did you say Texas somewhere there?
No, we got some Texas representing up in there as well. So we always got some host schools that going to be participating in it. So, man, we're excited. We're thrilled to be back. We got a great number of partners that's making it, sustainable and relevant within this space. We're flying in 3 bands. We're all expenses paid trip for the bands, putting them up in nice properties throughout the city. Each band gets $20,000 in scholarship money funding back to the institutions now. And Cricket Wireless, which is one of our new partners, is adding another $3,000 per school with that too. So each band and university is going to walk away with $23,000 in scholarship funding back to their participating universities. We're giving away instrument scholarships to deserving high schools in the Houston area. We're giving away 2,500 tickets for deserving students so they can get a chance to come to NRG Stadium. Another 2,500 tickets for people if they get vaccinated, because I think that's important with our minority community. So from the health and wellness standpoint. So we have a number of great events that's taking place that weekend that we're super excited for.
No doubt about it. Great information. Mike, let me let you jump back in here since you asked a little bit about where the Texas is going to be represented. Texas, the whole state. But with that said, ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, so tremendous event, and you're definitely getting that feel for the HBCU experience. You know, how much engagement with local alumni, other civic organizations have you done in advance, and also local radio stations to get, to pave the way to really solidify this as a huge event that is showing to be?
Yeah, no, and one of our main goals is how can we continue to be more integrated into the community that we serve, the Houston community, the Houston region, and definitely have opportunity to engage more minority media firms to support it. Like I mentioned, definitely with the giveaways and with the HEB participation to support the community. We're working on some other different initiatives that we think might be kind of neat that we're just not quite there yet that we can announce. But like you said, I mean, it's important for us to be integrated with minority entrepreneurs that we're checking the box on. How can we support minority media partners like the Ralph Coopers of the world and you guys to help get the word out there of what we're doing. And so in like anything that we can do, if it makes sense, if these minority media partners are out there, we're definitely got our ears open and willing to do some opportunities and some partnerships with them. I just think that's key to empowering our community and empowering, us as a whole to support our HBCUs.
Truly awesome. Thank you.
No doubt.
Let me let Charles jump in here and ask another question as well.
Well, yeah, I wanted to ask about the Houston community as a whole in terms of the band community, because I've been here for quite some time now. And whenever you have these sorts of events, it really turns out to be a real population boom, especially for the band community. But talk about the band community here in Houston.
Man, the band community here in Houston is like awesome, none other. And the thing about it is, we're working with Harris County Houston Sports Authority as a partner of ours, as well as Lone Star Sports and Entertainment folks. And we're also working with area high schools to where they can use this as a fundraiser. So they can get a reduced ticket price that they can, mark up and keep the funding for themselves. And to support the local band community. So that's one area that we're doing. So where they can take it, mark it up, make some money, some fundraising back to them. And like you said, man, Houston and the band community, there's such great family of folks to work with, and we just want to continue figuring out ways to support them. Whatever way we can, and we want to leverage our platform. We want to leverage these relationships that we have that the door hasn't always been open with the sports authority and the city and the county and with the Texans and those folks. So let's leverage our platform to grow more in the community and support the needs of the community. So, I mean, we're open doors. So if it's a good opportunity and it makes sense, and if it's beneficial for what we're trying to do to support our mission, we're more than welcome to do it.
No doubt about it. I want to follow up a little bit because you talk about partnerships, and I want people to realize the type of partnerships you're talking about. You named some of the organizations, but tomorrow's media advisory event will have dignitaries who are scheduled to speak and certainly be around. City of Houston, the mayor, the Honorable Sylvester Turner, Harris County Houston Sports Authority. You talked about them, but you have the CEO, Janice Burke, coming. Obviously, yourself as the CEO of Weber Marketing and Consulting, PepsiCo Marketing Manager, Communications, Catherine Carter. Yeah, the moderator of tomorrow's event will be Chester Pitts. And then you have a legend among itself in terms of performance by Calvin Murphy's Marching Thunder. And I know this is just a media announcement. This is not even an event. And you are able to get all these stakeholders and individuals involved. Talk about how you were able to create this partnership and why it's so important to have these key stakeholders buy into what you're doing here in Houston.
Oh man, that's a great question. And like you said, I mean, between Cracker Barrel, who's, I mean, how many times have you heard Cracker Barrel supporting, you know, minority properties of this nature? So Cracker Barrel is definitely a strong supporter in what we do. And they've helped fuel we started an HBCU Band Together initiative back in the fall that supports HBCU marching bands year round. We launched a world premiere with Facebook with Anthony Hamilton to help drive funding for that in the fall. We created a documentary called The National Battle of the Bands, a salute to HBCU marching bands, that we aired during Black History Month and Black Music Month that hit more than 20 million households through syndication. And, you know, from Cracker Barrel to Pepsi. Pepsi is a new 3-year partner with us. We're joined at the hip and quite excited about that and the many different opportunities that they can bring to the table outside of that. We mentioned Cricket Wireless, Credit Versio to talk about credit. I mean, we just got to do a better job at educating ourselves to keep better credit. Procter & Gamble's at the table with supporting us and Home Depot. And so we have a number of great partners that really helps make this program sustainable. And more to name, Miller Coors is at the table with us as well. So you know, we have a lot of great partners that support us to make us sustainable. It wouldn't be doable without them. And it's kind of funny sometimes when you see on social media, folks be like, oh, why you got all these sponsors? And, you know, but really sponsors are what fuel this type of property to make it sustainable, not only for us, because it's a pretty big price tag to be at NRG Stadium, but also to make sure they get the scholarship funding that they need. And so they're the ones that make it happen. And to be quite honest with you, the Harris County Houston Sports Authority, they've been a big component of that. And they've kind of given us the keys to the kingdom here. But you know what? We did it the right way. And they don't always get to see African-American entrepreneurs come in there and do business the right way. And like, we didn't come out there holding a hand out. We was like, we got our partners. So what can you do to help amplify this? So from the judge to Mayor Turner, Harris County Houston Sports Authority, all of those folks, City Council, they've really bought in on this. And to be quite honest with you, I'm glad they bought in on this, because the first year when we were here, 40,000 folks, economic impact of 6.3 million, ridership was up 10% on Metro Rail. So, I mean, we're not doing things like that's rocket science. We're just doing things in a good way.
No doubt about it. We're right up on the break. And this is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab. But I know we have maybe 1 or 2 questions we want to ask you. So if you can stick around for about 5 minutes after this quick break, we'll let Mike come in, ask his final question, give you a parting word, and then you can get out of here.
Okay.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab. So Mike,
it was a monumental game for A&M and Tampa. It was a monumental game. Somebody had to lose, and thank God it was them this time.
We knew it was going to be a battle. Look at Jake Ave's record. 202 and 36, I think, some off-the-wall figures.
And nobody would play him because they didn't want to take a chance of getting beat. But the truth of it is,
over 46,000 tickets. Blacks were sitting in the east stands. Whites were sitting in the west stands. And the score wound up 34-28.
The only thing we proved that we wasn't inferior, that we were not inferior, and we were not afraid.
For one night, for 160 minutes, we was better than them. How they play, boy, you gon' learn today. How your team they play. How they play, yeah. We represent that swag. that MEAC. And let me say, what's up to Tennessee State?
This is Dr. Bill with Inside HBCU Sports Lab, here with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, interviewing Derek Weber, the CEO of Weber Marketing and Consulting. And I know Mike wanted to ask the question, so go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Derek, thanks again for coming. I know you got a hard schedule. You were talking through all of the folks, the stakeholders in this process. And I guess I wanted to know, what was the secret sauce to showing the value of this HBCU event? I mean, you have basically corporate sponsors in depth and width, from HEB, and you went through all the way down to Gillette. So how did you get them engaged? How did you get them to buy in? What was the secret sauce to really selling them on this cultural event?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, the secret sauce is it's the metrics, it's the numbers. And to be honest with you, like everything that we've been doing, even with the SWAC, because we're the agency of record for the SWAC conference as well. And we have seen like substantial growth with the SWAC and with the Battle of the Bands platform. And to be honest with you, with the leadership with the SWAC and with our property, when we're able to go out after major partners like a USAA or a Pepsi or whatever, a Cricket Wireless or whatever the case may be, when you can offer them scale and when you can offer them the metrics and the research behind it, like it's simple. The business is simple, right? If you're investing in this minority audience, it's more beneficial for you because we over-index in everything. And if you just pay us a little bit of attention, the return will be usually between 4 and 7 to 1 return. And so to be honest with you, I just go to them with facts. So Cricket Wireless, well, how many more phones do you want to sell? But this is how we can get you to sell more phones. So Pepsi, well, what do you want to do? You want to pour more? You want to get engaged more with campuses? We can help you do that. USAA, like, what do you want to do? Well, guess what? It's a lot of minorities that's been in the military and you've never paid us attention. And so we go in there and just give them the facts. And it's easy. Like I tell people all the time, like business is easy when you're transparent. And when you give them the facts and the information and the metrics, not some get it more than others, but if you just, and we don't go away. Okay. So you can tell me no once, you can tell me no twice. You tell me no 3 times. I'm still going to come back to you the next year and the next year and the next year, because it's my job to educate these big brands on why they need to do business. So like, for example, the trendsetters aren't general marketing. All right. The trendsetters aren't the Hispanic marketing consumer. The trendsetters are African Americans. Like the Nielsen research shows that. So the Nielsen research shows that when the African American consumer latches on to a brand, it increases their market share. So it's simple. So we just go after the research and the facts, and we don't go away. And now, under the cultural climate that we're in, listen, you're either on the right side of history or you're not. So you're either going to support us or you're not. You're either going to give us the rights that we need or not. And if you're not going to do it, then we're going to move on. We're going to roll over you, and we're going to continue to advance this conversation to amplify our HBCUs to get them what they deserve, period and point blank.
I like it. Well, any final thoughts? Because I know you have to get out of here, and I know you probably summed it up there, but it may be something that we didn't ask you, so I want to give you a chance to chime in on that now.
No, I just wanted to say in closing, thank you guys so much for what you do, amplifying our HBCUs in the right way, shedding the light on why it's important to support our HBCUs. We want to continue to support you on your efforts. And I definitely want to continue that conversation on how we can be more engaged to support you on what you guys are doing from a media funding standpoint. Don't know what that is, but I just think it's important for us to do. And just kudos to you guys for what you're doing. We're quite excited about this year coming up, but it's also important that, we all continue to get vaccinated, and so we can be safe and have fun and enjoy the things that we haven't been able to do over the last year and a half.
Definitely.
Perfect way to end this perfect segment, and we certainly will continue to talk with you. support you and however we can, and we appreciate the fact that you're going to support us as well. So Derek, you're doing a wonderful job for our HBCUs and our community in general. Godspeed to you. Continue to be blessed and continue to do the great things you do. And I plan to be there tomorrow for the media advisors so I can sum it up and tell all our listeners the great work that you're doing moving forward. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a great and blessed rest of the afternoon.
You too as well. Thank you.
Well, let's jump back in here before we take our next break and get back into some of the conversation and thought that was going on as we move in there about the Supreme Court. And so before we do that, let's take a quick break. This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We'll be right back after this break.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
Let's face it, shopping for insurance can be time-consuming. That's why when it comes to your auto, home, and life insurance needs, make things simple and trust the experts at Allstate. They will help you get the coverage that fits your needs while helping you bundle your life, home, and auto policies. Bundling saves you money, sure, but it also saves you time, so you can enjoy the things that matter most even more. Contact me, Tammy Haynes, your local agent, for a free personalized insurance quote. Allstate, are you in good hands?
Since 2000. How they play, boy, you gon' learn today. How you say they play, How they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAG, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. As we were discussing in the first quarter of the show, if you would, we talked about the Supreme Court ruling. And so obviously a lot of this, and people are focused about the Power 5 schools and how this may affect them, and obviously about the money they're making. But we do it in regards to, not just because we're used to it, as Mike wanted to say earlier, but we look at the HBCU sports component of it, right? So what are your thoughts at an early advance of how this may or may not affect HBCUs? Starting with you, Charles, any inclination, any thoughts early on of how you've kind of seen this maybe one way or the other for HBCU programs, and whether that's at the FCS level or the Division II level, or even at the NIA level, which we'll get to really talk in more on Thursday with the president of the NAIA coming on, Jim Carter.
Well, the thing that I could sort of take a look at is, I know we're kind of tiptoeing through the wilderness on this thing, but the question that jumps out for me is, I know the group of five, or the Power 5, at least wanted to put the onus on each individual institution, to sort of determine their own value in terms of name, image, and likeness. So, the question for me is, what sort of state laws from state to state make it amenable for, Alabama to out-recruit Georgia, or Mississippi to try to out-recruit Louisiana. So those are the kind of things that I kind of take a look at in terms of state to state, how they will sort of, because they've said they want, the commissioners have said they want to take the onus off the NCAA to kind of create this value, if you will. But how can each state kind of, sort of operate within this environment and make it conducive to where they kind of create some sort of recruiting advantage? So I think there's sort of a trickle down sort of effect that happens from there.
That's a great point. This one is wide open, and you heard the president of the NCAA, for that matter, trying to get his presidents and his athletic directors as well as commissioners to act on some NCAA regulations of how they will move forward. But as I've read it, all of them are independent of their states, and they don't want to step on the state legislative system's right. So in a lot of ways, unlike what you have seen before, they don't really want to act because they believe that they're going to step on their own toes, and they don't want to be under further legal components about individual states because they see how the NCAA is getting hammered. It's going to be really interesting to follow because this all kicks off for many of these states July 1st. So there's a race to try to get something on the books. With that said, Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of how this will or won't affect HBCUs from your perspective?
I think it's wide open. It's the wild, wild west. I mean, you got a forest, but you don't see what the trees look like. Today, the NCAA operates as the hub of a major wheel. The major spokes of that wheel would be the lifestyles of many coaches, the administrators, even the NFL, other stakeholders. You're going to see a paradigm shift in that. I think you're going to see unique marketing programs. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about this, and I talked about that age-old, using my law school, on that age-old battle, states' rights versus federal law.
There you go.
Here we are again. I said we're right here talking about this same issue, and CB is actually right. This is a federal ruling. It sets precedents. It sets a precedent. It's going to shift the paradigm, but what does it mean for each individual state and region? Those are going to look different. And once you determine how they look like, now you're going to say, okay, what does this really do for FAMU in the state of Florida once their state passes their legislation? Oh, wait a minute, Louisiana, gambling state, what does that look like? Their legislation may be a little different. What are the nuances now that the Supreme Court has set the precedent? Now the states are going to set theirs. And from there, you're going to see HBCUs kind of changing their marketing programs. How does this impact the way they recruit? Some of the haves will now be have-nots, to be honest, at the FBS and FCS level, to be honest. Just because of unique advantages, perspectives, maybe their state gives them an advantage. I'm just kind of reaching in here, but these are the things that are now going to come to the light as we move further into this.
No, I think you're hitting on something with the states, and that's why they want some type of overall rule, because you're right. Some going to race to try to make sure they have an advantage. What were you going to say, Charles?
Well, that's the question. I mean, does states trying to create this advantage up here indirectly affect the HBCUs? I mean, does Mississippi's do they make their legislation lax enough to where Jackson State can benefit in recruiting against Florida? And so those are sort of things that you kind of take a look at. And I'd imagine Alabama state legislature is not going to do anything that's going to hurt Alabama or Auburn. So, does that affect Alabama A&M and Alabama State? So, you talk about a wild, wild west. Well, we got some wide earths all over the place in each of these state legislatures. So it's going to be fun to watch and see what happens.
No doubt about it. Willie Alex Hine comes in here with a comment, and I can understand his cynicism and how in a lot of ways it's real. Another rule for the P5 to make more money. By the time it gets us HBCUs, it will be pennies. Something to think about there. We have AD Drew says, Charles Bishop, it's almost like factoring cost of living into a salary negotiation when talking about a new job. Great perspective. The great Steve Gaither has joined us and checking us out from HBCU Game Day, giving him some love as he continues to bring it hard and heavy with different news. Shout out to him. Reginald Johnson says this subject of NIL is going to further separate the have and the have-nots in college athletics. I'm interested in that because I'm not sure how much further you can get. I mean, we act like it's not far. I mean, we have these Division I's, but we, by definition, separate them anyway. We know the difference between the Power Five, and we know the blue bloods of the Power Five. And we know the next group of fives, G5s, they want to call it. We have the FCS level. We have the HBCUs, what they're able to do with different levels. And for the most part, really, if you think about it, over the last 50-some years, you go look at the top 25 teams and what of the poll, they're pretty much similar in terms of the top 25 things. So I'm not sure if you can really get much more separation. So I'm not sure about that.
I made that one point earlier, and here's why I say that. You're going to have some schools in the Power Five and once this law is whatever the states are going to do, they're going to do. Let's say you're comparing what the law looks like in Mississippi versus what it looks like in California. Maybe I have somebody from a Power Five who can get more of an advantage if I go to Jackson State, believe it or not, because the laws in Mississippi are a little bit more conducive to me and my name likeness. So I'm saying what we're
my point is as you're saying it, Mike, the market system will open itself. I'm saying that exists because there's some students that want to go to California for whatever reason, because whatever they heard about California, it excites them. There's some kids that are just home kids that want to be in Mississippi. There's some kids that maybe be deep enough that they talk about the free income tax of the state of Texas or Florida. So what I'm saying, it's so diverse of whatever wets the whistle. It's so infinite. There's so many different reasons why young people choose a school that I'm not sure that this doom, as we all think about, some of the great ones are going to have it. I'm saying this is a country with capitalism, and that is baked into the system. And there's people that have that marketing capital to do what they want to do, regardless of what kind of cap you try to put on it, unless you go to a hard cap like the NFL or the NBA. And still within that, you still have your brand ambassadors that are able to separate themselves because they just have a better system of brand to do it. And that's what the NCAA didn't want to do, or they would have to get in a collective bargaining. So they're not going to be able to do it unless they flat out say they're going to pay. And if they're going to pay students, that's not going to separate HBCUs any more than what they already are, because in some ways they're paying incentives that exist. Now this pay is just going to be on top of the table. So it's no real difference in that. I'm like, if we're going to be in a capitalist system, let the market take its place and let it do what it do, because some ways we find a way to do it anyway. With that, let's take a quick break. Our last break here before we come back into it. Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. As we go into the break, Chad Cooper also said happy belated Father's Day to the guys, and I didn't do that, and I want to make sure that to my colleagues, I was so excited about it, and to all those out there, a super, super belated happy Father's Day to you and all our lab listeners. With that, we'll be right back, and that's including Roy, the producer in the background. We'll be right back out of this quick break, and we'll close out the show on this last segment. Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
They play, how they play, boy, you gon' learn today. How your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAG, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Getting into our last quarter, we're not up close to our last 2-minute fast break, if you would, but we're coming up close to it. So I know, Charles, you had a little comment that you wanted to sneak out there. Before I do that, I thought Chad Cooper had something that was a little interesting to put out there and something of food for thought. We don't have to answer it, but I thought his point was good. Given SCOTUS ruling, will this immediately benefit graduate student transfers who can get a higher assistantship with different major institutions, like paying more for kinesiology versus sociology grad assistant job, or at the graduate level as a graduate student in a major? Great point, man. Interesting.
Yeah, great question, great point.
Yeah.
Something to be out of that. I know, Charles, you wanted to chime in and say something about what this looks like or reminds you of.
Yeah, it looks like the framework looks like we're going back to Pleasure above ground, and where everybody can see what's going on versus the other way. I don't know anything about that, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know one person over here that has that feeling that had to do it above ground. Last one at Prairie View that got those privileges. So that's interesting that you bring that up as he kind of sneaks and puts his head over there, hand up, as he knows what's saying. I'm not going to say any name, but I will point to somebody in that corner
over. Exactly.
Man, Black, well strong. I'll leave it at that. With that, as we come to a close in the last segment, let me stay with you, Mike, in terms of what are some things out there that you wanted to get off your chest in terms of HBCU sports, hot news, or take whatever direction you want to do. What's out there? What are your thoughts on your mind?
Man, I just want to say, I've been tied up, with this lacrosse tour and everything, but who can ignore the performance of the A&T Aggies? The two folks who've made it to the Olympics. So, Mr. Ross Jr., 400-meter finalist, will be on the mile relay, and Trevor Stewart from North Carolina A&T. Hats off to those guys, but to the whole North Carolina A&T. But they have two Olympians, so I think it's the first set of Olympians since I think Troy Douglas and somebody else. I think Ruth Morris from North Carolina A&T in 1992. So hats off to them. They can't get enough kudos. They have taken that program up to the next level, and I don't see them going anywhere. So, and they've done that in a lot of programs, but hats off to them.
4 Olympians. They got 4 of them. That whole 4x400 team.
Yeah, the whole 4x. Yeah, you're right. The mile relay.
Yeah, and they have Olympians representing other countries in terms of Mexico as well as Libya for their international students that qualified under that umbrella. So, yeah, it's fascinating so many different ways. I also wanted to shout out Division II alumni Livingstone, Quanera Hayes, that will be representing the USA in terms of getting it done for the Olympic trials. With that, Charles, what are your thoughts? Anything hot on your mind? I would like for you to share a little bit about Jackson State in regards to Dion, Coach Prime, and what went down there. What were your thoughts?
Prime.
Give us some insight.
Prime.
I have to say it was a tremendous opportunity to cover Coach Sanders' first satellite camp in terms of what they were able to get done. It wasn't, it was a competitive environment. There were definitely research analytics going on all over the place in terms of kids wanting to be seen, but just an outpouring of support from former NFL players, Terrell Owens, current NFL players, Demario Davis, Teron Matthew, Nate Newton. You had HBCU coaches there, Terry Sims, Donald Hill Ely. You had Dawson Odoms coming down from Norfolk State. So, it was a tremendous outpouring of support for his initial satellite camp. And I tell you what, they had listed 300 kids, but I mean, it had to be over 300 kids there at that camp. Great opportunity for a lot of campers to be seen and get scouted, if you will. So, but I want to give a shout out to my partner in crime, Neely. We were able to cover it with the pregame show, and we were able to really, hopefully, give you a different perspective and give you a lot of insight into the camp.
No doubt about it. Great closing comments there. Shout out to Aqeel Glass in terms of representing SWAC 2021 Deacon Jones Trophy and Black College Football Hall of Fame. We'll get into the Hall of Famers a little more on Thursday's show. We'll make sure that they get their due recognition, but shout out to the Black College Hall of Fame football players that were enshrined this past weekend. That was beautiful in a lot of ways. So I wanted to make sure we got that out of there on the plate. Shout out to Carlos Brown. He's joined us, and so excited about him. We need him back up. He had to take a break this past weekend, but if my understanding, he'll be back showcasing the show. And we have some big announcements coming in regards to where we may go with that as well. So wanted to share a little bit of that love, but that'll do it for us today on Dr. Cavil's Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Hope you enjoyed the show today. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We hope you enjoyed our interview with Derek Weber of Weber Marketing Consulting. with the announcement of the 2021 Cracker Barrel National Battle of the Bands presented by Pepsi Zero Sugar. They will have their media day advisory announcement for tomorrow. I also wanted to take a little plug and wanted to congratulate Texas Southern University's 13th president and Dr. Crumpton Young being announced officially as she was signed in at the last Thursday Board of Regents meeting. So kudos and congratulations to her with much continued success. Again, I want to thank you for listening to Dr. Mill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter. On Facebook, that's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Also on YouTube. Subscribe, like us, share. Dream big and continue to move forward. Thank you to all the lab listeners. We will talk with you soon. Charles.
Course.
Mike.
Lecture.
Dismissed. Happy birthday.
YT Productions.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball, So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy, you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAG, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay, tune into the HBCU Sports Lab with Dr.